Stalingrad, the battle that burned through history. What happens when a dictator obsessed with oil, glory, and revenge sends his best army into a frozen meat grinder named after his arch-nemesis? What unfolds when a city refuses to die, women pick up rifles, and tanks roll straight off factory floors into battle? And how does a sniper named Vassili turn the ruins into his personal hunting ground while the skies above explode in 1,000 dogfights? Welcome to Stalingrad, the battle where Zhukov faced Paulus, where Hitler gambled and lost, and where history was rewritten in blood, fire, and frost. This isn't just a war story, it's a symphony of chaos, a tale of titans, and a lesson in hubris. It's 1942. Europe is under the iron heel of Nazi Germany. Hitler is riding high. He's steamrolled Poland in a month, Norway in 2, and France in 6 weeks. The man's ego is so inflated it needs its own zip code. With Western Europe in his pocket, he turns eastward, eyeing the Soviet Union like a hungry wolf staring at a steak. In 1941, he launches Operation Barbarossa, the largest invasion in human history. 3 million German troops pour into the USSR like a tidal wave of steel and fire. They seize Belarus, Ukraine, the Baltics, and even threaten Moscow and Leningrad. But, plot twist, the Soviets don't collapse. They bleed, they burn, but they don't break. Fast forward to 1942. Hitler's got a new plan. Case blue, fall blau. The goal? Grab the oil fields in the Caucasus and take Stalingrad, the industrial jewel on the Volga River. Why? Because oil fuels tanks, planes, and dreams of world domination. And Stalingrad, it's not just a city, it's Stalin's city. Taking it would be a symbolic slap in the Soviet mustache. So Hitler splits his forces. Army Group A under Wilhelm List heads south to the oil fields. Army Group B, led by Field Marshal von Weichs, and featuring the infamous 6th Army under Friedrich Paulus, marches towards Stalingrad. They're backed by Romanians, Italians, Hungarians, Axis allies who are about to learn the hard way that Russian winters don't care about alliances. On the Soviet side, Marshal Yeremenko and Commissar Khrushchev, yes, that Khrushchev, are tasked with defending the city. They appoint General Vassili Zaitsev to lead the 62nd Army, and this guy is tough. He once said, "We will defend Stalingrad or die in it." Spoiler, many did both. Stalin issues Order Number 27, not one step back. Retreat is treason, deserters are shot, the city must hold. The Luftwaffe swoops in like a vengeful god and bombs Stalingrad into a flaming hellscape. Wooden buildings vanish in firestorms, civilians die by the thousands. The Volga runs red. But the Soviets dig in. Women and children build trenches. Teenagers carry ammo. The city becomes a fortress of rubble and rage. By September, the Germans are at the gates. They've got 270,000 troops, 500 tanks, 600 aircraft, 3,000 artillery pieces. The Soviets? Outgunned but not outwilled. 190,000 troops, 400 tanks, 300 aircraft, 2,200 artillery pieces. The battle devolves into urban warfare madness. Every building is a battlefield. Every staircase, a sniper's nest. The Germans call it the Rat War, fighting room to room, floor to floor. The Soviets cling to the city like barnacles on a battleship. Counterattacks by the 24th and 66th Soviet armies fail miserably. The Luftwaffe dominates the skies, turning Soviet tanks into flaming coffins. But the defenders don't quit. They fight with knives, bricks, and bare hands if they must. As the Germans clawed their way into the city, Stalingrad became a living nightmare. A place where bricks screamed, shadows killed, and every inch of ground was paid for in blood. But oh no, the Soviets weren't just defending. They were possessed by a will to fight that bordered on supernatural. Forget the damsel in distress trope. Soviet women were sniping Nazis from rooftops, dragging wounded comrades through rubble, and building fortifications with bare hands. Nurses stitched wounds while dodging bullets. Female snipers like Lyudmila Pavlichenko and Zaitsev's protégés turned the city into a sniper's paradise. Or hell, if you were German. Across the icy Volga, reinforcements poured in like a Soviet tsunami. Strategic reserves from Moscow, aircraft from Siberia, and fresh troops from every corner of the USSR arrived daily. They crossed under fire, many dying before even setting foot on land. But they came. And they kept coming. The Stalingrad railway station changed hands 14 times in 6 hours. That's right, every 25 minutes, someone new was planting a flag and getting shot for it. It was like a deadly game of musical chairs. Except the music was artillery and the chairs were on fire. 3 Soviet factories, the Red October, Barricadi, and Dzerzhinsky tractor plant, kept producing T-34 tanks and iron tractors while under attack. Workers would build tanks by day and fight by night. Some tanks rolled straight off the assembly line into battle. Talk about express delivery. Enter Vassili Zaitsev, the Soviet sniper with nerves of steel and eyes like a hawk on espresso. He racked up over 200 kills, including 10 enemy snipers, and trained dozens more in the art of silent death. His team targeted German officers, causing chaos in the Nazi ranks and giving Field Marshal Paulus a migraine that no aspirin could fix. From September 16 to 25, the Luftwaffe launched 10,000 missions, turning the skies into a blender of fire and metal. But the Soviets weren't backing down. They flew 11,000 missions between July and November, clawing back control inch by inch. By late autumn, the Germans held 90% of Stalingrad, but their flanks were guarded by under-equipped, under-motivated Axis allies. Hitler refused to let Paulus retreat. Stalingrad was too symbolic. So the Soviets, led by Zhukov, Vasilevsky, and General Vatutin, launched Operation Uranus on November 19, 1942. 3 Soviet armies smashed through the weak Romanian lines. In just 4 days, they encircled 265,000 German troops. The mighty Sixth Army was trapped like a rat in a steel cage. Hitler refused to let them break out, trusting Field Marshal Manstein's Army Group Dawn to rescue them. Spoiler, it didn't. Stalingrad was no longer just a city. It was a symbol of Soviet defiance, a graveyard of Nazi ambition, and a turning point in World War II. The battle wasn't over yet, but the tide had turned, and oh boy, the final act was going to be even bloodier. As the Sixth Army sat encircled in the frozen ruins of Stalingrad, Hitler had a brilliant idea. Why not let the Luftwaffe supply them by air? Enter Hermann Göring, Luftwaffe's head honcho and self-declared logistics wizard. He assured Hitler, "Yeah, we can totally feed and fuel 250,000 men from the sky." Spoiler alert, no, they couldn't. The Luftwaffe needed to deliver 500 tons of supplies per day. They barely managed 100 tons on a good day. And that was before the Soviets started bombing the airfields like they were playing whack-a-mole with Messerschmitts. Fuel, food, ammo, everything was in short supply. The Sixth Army was starving, freezing, and running on fumes. In December 1942, Field Marshal Erich von Manstein launched Operation Winter Storm, a daring offensive to break the encirclement. His forces got within 48 kilometers of the trapped Sixth Army. Victory was so close, you could smell the schnitzel. But Paulus, ever the obedient soldier, refused to break out without Hitler's explicit order. That order never came. So Manstein's troops, exhausted and outnumbered, had to retreat. The Sixth Army stayed put, like a turkey waiting for Thanksgiving. Inside the cauldron, things got grim. Soldiers were malnourished, eating horse meat, sawdust bread, and whatever they could scavenge. Ammunition was scarce. Artillery pieces froze. Tanks became metal tombs. Morale plummeted. The only thing rising was the death toll. On January 30, 1943, Hitler tried one last mind game. He promoted General Friedrich Paulus to Field Marshal, hoping the title would shame him into fighting to the last man. After all, no German Field Marshal had ever surrendered. Paulus responded with a shrug and a surrender. On February 2, 1943, the Sixth Army laid down its arms. Over 90,000 German troops were captured. Only 5,000 would ever return home. Stalingrad was a cataclysmic defeat. Nazi propaganda took a hit. Hitler declared total war, demanding every German resource be thrown into the fight. But it was too late. The Soviets were surging, the British were winning in North Africa, and the Allies were preparing to storm Italy. Stalingrad wasn't just a battle. It was a turning point, a symbol, and a graveyard for Nazi dreams. And there you have it, the Battle of Stalingrad, where snipers became legends, factories fought back, and an entire city stared down the Nazi war machine and said, "Not today." If you were gripped by the firestorms, frozen tanks, and fearless fighters, then trust me, this is just the beginning. We've got more battles, more heroes, and more jaw-dropping twists from history's bloodiest chapters coming your way. So don't miss out. Follow us, subscribe, and click that notification bell like it's a Soviet artillery strike. That way you'll be the first to know when we drop our next explosive story from the past. Thanks for watching, comrades. Until next time, stay curious, stay bold, and keep history alive.